The first thing that I want to say before I say anything else with this video is thank you so much for 300 subscribers. Uh, to me, that's a great milestone, and hopefully it shows a bright future that is to follow. But here we are, it is the 2021 Grand Finals, and it's looking like a really interesting tournament here. There's a lot of potential upsets that we could see. There's also a lot of potential sweeps that we could possibly see. But the first match on Tuesday, or next Tuesday, is the Shock versus the Dragons. With Shock, they have an ace up their sleeve that I don't think that any other team could say that they could play, and that is Roadhog. Because Roadhog does, at least in my eyes, counter Ball, because Ball is heavily reliant on being able to, do stalling methods and constantly spin on a point or try to disrupt the enemy team's positioning. But what Roadhog can do is he can hook him out of his grappling hook, he can hook him out of Pile Driver, which will cancel both abilities, causing Wrecking Ball to be kind of useless. And if Shanghai is relying on those ball comps, I feel like Shock could easily have that be played. Maybe even going back to last year's composition of playing the Widow Hanzo and Hog Sigma, or even Hog Zarya, as well as the Ana and Mercy, I believe. But despite that, I'm still going to say Shanghai's going to win, solely for the fact that even though Shanghai has their weaknesses, Shock has been shown to have very exploitable ones. And the fact that, Ons is only really good at Soldier, so if they know that Ons is coming in, they can just switch to, they can try to counter Soldier or Sombra, the two heroes that he's really just been playing. The only worry for them would probably end up being Glister, because he's usually the one playing their hit scans now. Ons sometimes playing the Widowmaker, but Widowmaker is not the strongest, even because of the constant Orisa shields or Wrecking Ball dives or Diva dives that are coming her way that she just straight up can't survive. Next is Philadelphia versus LA. I think that everyone is kind of predicting that Fusion's going to lose this, and I'm going to say it to be a 3-1, actually. I don't think they're going to be swept. Or actually, it's potential that they could be swept, but I don't think that they're going to get anywhere close to winning this game. Philly, notorious for wetting the bed during playoffs, and I see that happening here. But even if they weren't, they're against one of the best teams this year. You have Birdring, you have Kevster, Muse, Shu. This team has it all. And I do see them being a very dominant threat here, especially with the momentum coming off of the Countdown Cup. Washington versus Dallas. It's also a pretty clear victory for Dallas. I am not going to predict it to be a 3-0 though, because Justice can, I believe, take him out. Dallas does have some points of weakness that could be exploited. Not to a loss, but definitely to a map or two. Atlanta and Chengdu. This is another hard one to predict because Atlanta has a death sentence when it comes to Wrecking Ball. Now, that being said, a lot of teams have just been running these Orisa Diva comps that Atlanta has been running, So if that's what it's going to be, I feel as if Atlanta is going to win this. But it is going to be a close one, and I think this is probably one of the matches I'm most excited for because I am rooting for the Atlanta Reign as well as the Dragons in this tournament. Round one eliminations. Shock versus Fusion. Uh, a very clear win from Shock. I think that is probably going to be a sweep as well. Again, even if Philly wasn't wetting the bed here, the Shock is a team that they've never really been able to beat. They've beaten them a couple times, but other than that, they really don't have much going for them. Justice and Hunters, another very clear win from the Hunters. Because you have such phenomenal players like Leave and Chengdu, Gaga. This team is another really stacked one, which is why I think that this is such a hard tournament, a hard grand finals to predict. Outside of like the Justice and the Fusion, none of these teams are necessarily bad, and none of them really have any faults to them, or at least major ones. Like there are issues that each team has, like Dallas being unable to play hit scan, Chengdu really being finding it difficult to play many other competitions outside of Wrecking Ball. The Shock having ons that they like to play, even though they really only play them for Soldier 76 and Sombra. Then there's also LA that also has a lot of weakness to them. I think that they're definitely one of the next teams that are going to struggle in these upcoming rounds. Just for the fact that even though they're a really strong team, they do have they just they have a hard time pulling everything together and synergizing super well. Like during the Countdown Cup, the only reason they won was because of Shu's flank as Baptiste on the final map. If not, they would have easily lost the game. But really, none of these teams are necessarily bad, though. Starting the winner's bracket, round two is Shanghai and Glads. Uh, I do think that Shanghai is going to win this because of Gladiators' failures to kind of pull everything together. Like I said, to be able to clean up, and that they're really unable to finish games the way that they need it to. They tend to fall apart at a lot of times, and I do see that to happen again, even though they are an absurdly strong team. Winners bracket uh, follows up with Dallas and Atlanta, two of the strongest teams in the Overwatch League right now. Dallas has so many candidates for MVP. Atlanta is just a stalwart of defense. It's two really different teams playing here, and history would dictate that Dallas is likely to win. Atlanta's only beaten them once, but that was also their most recent encounter. Uh, so it has the potential to happen, which is why I think that it will happen. Atlanta and Dallas going the distance, but ultimately I feel like Atlanta could win this. Definitely playing to a Wrecking Ball composition oriented. Not a Wrecking Ball, in a Orisa composition uh, game. But that is really only because these Orisa comps that teams like Atlanta are running are actually quite defensive and can actually counter a dive, which kind of stops Dallas from playing Fearless on Monkey. In Ryan gets really shut down by a 2, kind of forcing them either into going Wrecking Ball, which Fearless is not the best at, or mirroring the Orisa compositions, which Atlanta is honestly better at. First up in the losers bracket is the Shock versus the Fuel. If I'm not mistaken, Shock hasn't beaten. They beat Dallas like twice, but other than that, Dallas has proven that they are a much better team, and I see that continuing through here in a very close game, but I do think that Dallas will pick up the victory here. Chengdu versus Glads. Two teams that are known for choking, but I do think that it is going to be Chengdu taking the L against the Gladiators. The winners final, I'm not going to spoil it, but two of my favorite teams this year, Atlanta and Shanghai going at it. History has always dictated that Shanghai wins this. Mainly, but where the variability comes in is that Shanghai has not faced Atlanta in Orisa meta, which Atlanta is hugely dominant in. So it comes the potential of, can Atlanta win solely based on that? Because Void and Fate are a good tank comp, but when it comes to playing something mirrored, I feel that the team kind of struggles. Shanghai has to kind of try to vary their team compositions from other people, because they've kind of struggled a little bit. It's hard to kind of weigh their Countdown Cup placements, their matches, because they were playing off of almost no training or practice or any of that, because of the fact that they didn't need to play Countdown Cup. So they let other teams have that opportunity because they were guaranteed number 1 seed. So they just kind of had fun with it. But now we kind of gotta think, if does Shanghai have the potential to win with these Orisa comps? And it's a hard one to predict, honestly. Because I'm flip-flopping between Atlanta and Shanghai. And really, I feel that it really would come down to the DPS line, which is where Shanghai really has the edge. They have Lip and Fleta, two of the greatest DPS that this league has ever seen. And that's not to say anything negative about Kai and the rest of Atlanta as a whole, honestly. A lot of Shanghai's players are better than Atlanta's. Their support line, their tank line. Actually, their tank line is where I feel like that Atlanta does actually have the edge. And it's why Atlanta has been such a strong team, is because of Gator and Hawk. These two are probably one of the best tank lines that the league has, because of the fact that they're able to play a rush as well as a bunker. And they're able to really... Gator is one of the best defensive tanks in the league. And I do expect that to kind of show here. But I think this is going to be a really close game, and it's all going to be dependent on the DPS more so than the support, because it's really going to be about who can clean up and who can get that first pick and kind of be able to snowball that game. In the final set of elimination rounds in the losers bracket, Dallas and LA. I think it's going to be another win from Dallas. Very clearly, just because Dallas is Dallas. Really strong here, and I think it's going to be a difficult one to predict. Even though I am going to say that it's going to be a 3-1, mainly because Dallas is, again, a much better team. But it could be a lot closer. It could be a lot farther away. In the final winners bracket match, a losers bracket match is Dallas versus Atlanta once again. And I am going to predict another Atlanta win. Mainly because personally I want to finally have a team that I can be happy won a grand finals. It's a little selfish of me. It's a little idiotic of me because I'm almost certain that Dallas is going to win this. And either way, I'm going to be happy with it because I'm a huge fan of Dallas. I'm a huge fan of Atlanta. I'm a huge fan of Shanghai. Any of these three winning this year, I would be okay with. I would be happy with it. But I do think that Atlanta does have the potential to win this against Dallas, mainly because of those Arisa comps. Because when it was like a Ryan meta, Fearless is on another level as a Reinhardt player. Even though Gator is also one of the best Reinhardts, Fearless is on a completely another level there. Same when it comes to Winston, but Gator is not a very good Winston. He's not very good at all, and as well as when it comes to Wrecking Ball, Gator isn't very good at it. But like I said, though, when it comes to Orisa, this is one where Gator is on another level, and he is easily one of the best in that position. That leads us into grand finals. Shanghai and Atlanta. My top two teams going into this tournament. The only thing that would have made this better is if it was Houston in this position. Houston, another one of my top teams. I was really upset to see that they couldn't make it. But that only led to the fact that Reinhardt is really the only thing that they can play, and Reinhardt in this meta just gets shut down by just about everything. Orisa, Winston, Ball. It doesn't matter really what tank line they play at that point because Jonggu, yeah, is really only really great at Reinhardt, and Dreamer and Piggy don't really synergize all that well. But when it comes to this matchup against Shanghai and Atlanta, it all just comes down to, is Shanghai able to pick up their slack from their previous encounter in this tournament, at least for my predictions? And can they lose a game in this tournament? And honestly, I think that they could. This is another really hard one to predict, but I am going to say that Shanghai is going to run the gauntlet here. They're going to win every game and win grand finals, giving us Shanghai's redemption story finally complete after it had been shut down by the Shock last year. We don't see the three-peat from Shock. We don't see Dallas win yet another tournament. We don't see a random dark horse winning it like Chengdu or Justice, which I guess is kind of upsetting because it would be really interesting to see a team come out of nowhere and win this. But I feel that if it's a team that deserves it, it would be either Shanghai or Atlanta. And I don't really think you could argue that. Both of these teams have worked immensely towards getting to this point, and they both really deserve this tournament. but I really think that Shanghai has the upper hand here. Atlanta could win this game. Like I said about their previous matchup, but I think that Shanghai really has the better DPS line that allows them to pick up these uh, kills that they will need, as well as being able to play very flexibly. Fleto being able to play just by any hero. Same with Lip. Honestly, Lip can play a lot of hit scan. He can play Sombra, Tracer. You can even pick up some other heroes like Reaper and that. So this team is on another level, I think, this year. And I see them definitely winning the grand finals of the 2021 season. But the only other teams I could see winning this are Dallas, potentially the Shock, but since I don't see it being a ball meta, I don't think they could. I don't think they could trump it with playing Roadhog all that much. The only other team I could see possibly doing this is LA, but I don't think that they could beat the Dragons. I could see them being potentially able to beat any other team, but definitely not Shanghai. But that is my bracket. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for 300 subscribers again. And hopefully we get to see in an interesting tournament. It's not just going to be a sweep from one team throughout it all, even though I did kind of say that Shanghai is going to sweep this entire tournament because one team had to. But I would love to see either a team like Dallas or Atlanta come in through the losers bracket and take this tournament.